So let me first declare a data. India is rich history. This is a string. Okay, let me increase the font a bit. Okay, it looks much better. Yes. So India is rich history. Okay, so this is my string. Why I'm telling this as a string? Because all these characters are enclosed by double underscore, double quote on both the sides. So this is why we call it as a string. Okay, so first let me take you through few of the common functions that is applicable for all the data types. One of the function is that type of the given data. So always finish the syntax before you use the variable. That's what I want to use the print. Inside a print, I want to use the function called type. That's why I just made the syntax ready and then keep my variable, my data. So what is this function type? It is going to tell us, what kind of data that I have written on my variable called my underscore data. So when I run, it says class string. So it means what? This belongs to string category. Okay. So type is one such function. Let me do it separately so that when you want to refer it again, right, it will be much better for you. Okay. Now, another common function is length. So length means what? The total character that is available inside my string. So when I run, it says there are 21 characters. Okay. That includes space. That is very, very, very important. That includes space as well. Okay, so India is rich history, so all these data has each and every data carries one length on its own. Okay, so the total length of this specific is 21 including spaces. That is what the point that I want you to remember, including spaces. And next function is directory. So these three are mostly applicable in all the data types. You can use type, length, and directory for all the data types. So directory means dir is a function which is gonna give us all the inbuilt function of a given data type. Since let me add a line number. Go to option, show line number. So whatever I written on line number 7 is my string. So when I use a directory for my given string, it will return me all the inbuilt function that string supports by default. So when I run, there you see, it gives you a lot of functions. Okay. So my first and humble request as a beginner, right? Please don't use or please don't consider these data which has a double underscore on either side. So these are called attributes which we're going to see in future. As of now, no need to focus on this attribute. Excluding these, you can see starting from the capitalize function. So these are all the important functions that you people needs to know. Okay. So if someone asks me, sir, is that necessary that I need to learn all the function? And my answer will be S in capital letter. Of course, you have to learn because if it is in a project, if you work for any specific client, I'm pretty much sure that you may not use all the function. You might rarely use some 4 to 5 function. I totally agree. But when you are focusing yourself towards the interview and when you are trying to clear an interview, and if you want to clear the interview, right, the first and foremost thing is that you have to make sure that you learn all the function without even leaving a smaller one, because we don't know, right, in the interviews, right, we cannot expect what kind of a question that repeatedly comes, because it depends upon that person or the recruiter who is taking the interview on this special day. Okay, so for example, that recruiter would have come across some function the day before. So when he comes and sits in front of you, obviously he may ask you the same function. So on the safety front, make sure that you always stay one step ahead by learning all the function. Let me close. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through some of the functions which I see or which we usually see that happens frequently in interviews, as well as on the project front. This is what our focus will be for the day. Okay. Now let me comment this and okay. First function is that print my data dot count. So what I'm going to do in my data, that means in my given variable, I'm going to do the count. This is how you should use the function. But previously type, length and directory that I'm using directly. Okay. But when I say that there are certain functions specific to a given data type, this is the way you should use it. Input dot that particular function. So what is the function? Count. So let me run this. Look at this. Look at the error. Read the error. Type error. Count takes at least one argument. It says, Mohan, you're trying to do the count. I'm absolutely fine. But where is my argument? That means it is expecting something to be passed inside the count function. Because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to count something. So I have to mention that something. So the first point here is that there are certain functions which needs an argument to be passed for sure. So count is one such function. Without any argument, you cannot use count. There are few functions which we're gonna see as we progress throughout the day. That strip and split function. So those are the two functions which usually don't take an argument. That means it works with or without an argument, but function like count will always takes an argument. So let me keep it as I. So what basically I'm trying to tell, I'm telling my Python to do the count from the given variable, and what count? The letter I count. So there you see, it gives a data like 5. So what it basically means, there are 5 I present on my given string. Okay, so this one, look at line number 11, I have directly printed because just to showcase you. But at times you may have to use that in some other place. That means the output should be used in some other places. So for that, what you have to do, instead of you doing the print directly, you just keep it in one variable, as simple as it, and you can do the print of it. What is the purpose of line number 14? You're trying to keep it in some other variable, so that as the day progresses you may use it for some other purpose as well. Okay, so this is what count, same thing. All right, now the count function can be altered in some different ways. I'll tell you that. So basically where the count will usually start, very obvious that it is going to start from this index. This means which index? 0th index. So it is going to start from 0. Of course, it is going to travel till it reaches the last index of the given string. Very straightforward. Now, I am going to do a little alteration. I just put up a 2. So, when I put 2, what does it mean? Previously, what happened? By default, count will start reading the count from the 0th index. Very obvious, right? But now, I am especially making my count to start from the second index, not from the 0th index. I'm deviating a bit. So what happened? It will start reading from the second index. So it will start reading from this I only. So now after this, obviously there are only 3 number of i's. So when I print 4 number of I, whatever it is. So that's what it is. This one, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 number of I. So what is this 2 indicates? Instead of starting from the 0, you start from the second index. So that's what a little deviation. And 2, 6. So usually what happens, whenever a string travels, it is travel from 0th index to the last index. And in the previous case, which I defined on line number 18, I was actually deviated the actual process, and I'm asking them to start from the second index. What is the ending index? Obviously the last. But here, me manually, making where to start and where to stop. So I'm telling that start from the second index and stop me at the sixth index. So when I run F5, it is going to count me the I which is present between 2 and the sixth index, second and sixth index. So these are the three different ways that you can use a count function. Because count function is such function where I see that more frequent than not, right, occurs in your interviews. They'll ask you about the count. Okay, and next function will be like find. So first point that I'm telling guys, find can also be used as a count, used as in the mean. You can use a starting index of your wish, and also you can specify a ending index of your wish. So count, find will work in a similar way. That means you can specify the starting and ending index if needed, I'm telling. Okay, so now let us see what this find tells us. Okay, so find is the function of a string which is trying to tell us the index of the particular letter that I have mentioned. Then you might be having a doubt. Sir, index means there are a lot of I. Which I it will represent? Of course, the first occurrence. So, even though there are a lot of letter called I exist or present in your string, this find usually gives you the first occurrence of that letter. So, it is occurring at 0th index, right? So, obviously, output will be a 0. And they are using 0. And if you ask me, sir, how do I find the between or in between I? Of course, you have to use looping function that I have shared you in a separate video. You can, look into it. But here, find will give you the first occurrence. What if I want to find the last occurrence where the I exists at last, index of that I? Then you can use the function called rfind. Rfind means rear find. Rear means what? At the back end of the code. So when you run this specific code, it will return me the I which is exist or which occurs at the last occurrence of my given string. So find means the first letter, first occurrence, and rfind means last occurrence. Okay, so any of both is going to give you the index number, but find will be the first occurrence and rfind will be last occurrence. Okay, now index or index. There is a similar function called index. So let me run both of the thing. It is also giving the same output. Now let me run this output as well. So anonymously, both output looks same. So you don't need to get even a small 5% of a confusion. Yes, both the function does the same operation of finding the first and the last occurrence of the given string. Perfect. Now the question comes into picture is that if both the function doing the same operation, why I should go for these two functions separately, or why the people of Python who developed this function took unnecessary step of creating a duplicate? Not at all. Find and index function in a Python string always has the huge difference. I'll tell you that. Okay, now I'll use a find. Just for your better understanding, I'm trying to use some print statement. Welcome. Okay, now look at this. I'm running this. It works fine. Okay, now look at this closely. Now I'm trying to find the index of a letter which was not there in my string. Z is such letter which was actually not there in my given string. Correct. So when I run this code, look at that output. It says -1. So in find function, when you get the output like -1, it is like this find method is actually indicating me that it cannot find such letter. There is no such letter exist. Wonderful. But the beauty is that it doesn't terminate your code. The code is not altered. The code is not stopped. The code is still running. That's what the beauty of the find method. Find, when it doesn't find a letter, it don't stop the program. It keeps continuing to the next line or the next possible execution. But when I use the same scenario with a function of index, what happened is that as soon as it sees that there was no such letter call is that it stops the program. It terminates. The process has been killed. The progress has been terminated. If that was the case, what happened? The next line will not obviously get executed. Okay. So if you ask me the question, sir, when I do use this and when I use that, right? Depending upon the situation or depending upon the scenario that you're working. Okay. So when at times where your manager or whoever it is, they might be asking you to stop the program whenever you don't get the letter, then you can use the index. If your people say that no, let the program continue, it is just the smallest part of your program, then you can use find and skip to the next line of execution. So this is the major difference between the find and index. If you ask me whether this is something that you can expect an interview, and yes, my answer is yes, you can definitely expect this question of difference. Okay, they'll ask you the difference, right? Now, another frequent question that pops out in interviews as well as something, this function is something that on my personal experience count, we do use more than few times in our projects every day. Project in the sense, the programs. What was that? Conversion of a given string to a list. Okay. So what is basic thing? What was we are trying to do? We are trying to convert a string into a list. You might be asking question why we should go. First, sometimes string manipulation takes lot of time consumption because it will read letter by letter. For that, what I have to do, I have to convert that particular string into the list as per my expectation, as per my need that we're going to discuss right now. Okay. So why this is to have a quicker manipulation. And also in interview they'll ask you how to convert a string to a list. So let me keep the same data input I'm telling. Now look at this. This is a given string. Now my output is equal to list of my data. What does it mean? Direct typecasting. Directly I'm typecasting into a given list. Let's see if it is works. My output. Look at this. The output comes in a list. If you're wondering how do you say that it's a list, the data here are represented with the list braces on both the sides, square braces on both the sides. And if you still want to confirm that, as I always tell, right, you can use what function? Type function, type of my output. So when you run, there you see it got converted to a given list and it is giving me the answer saying that it has been converted to a list. Good. But the point here to be noted is that even though it has the conversion, but still it is converted into each and every letter separately. So what happened? Even if I do the manipulation right now after conversion, again I have to manipulate based upon the letter. Okay. So list is okay. The direct typecasting is okay if the scenario needs, but when I give the situation like this, right, I want to do the quicker manipulation by converting the given string into a list, and this will not come into picture because again we have to manipulate in a letter by letter way. So the next possible method for converting your given string to a list is split method. Split my data dot split. Okay, so as I already told, split is one function where it works even without an argument. Look at line number 57. I'm not going to give any argument. So let me see how it works. It works. It's, you can see the word India and then is, each and every comma I'm telling. Okay, this is one word, this is one word, this is one word, and this is one word. There are only four words only. So when I want to do the manipulation on the list, now it is easy. But in the previous case, direct conversion, letter by letter comma separated happened in the list. But here it is a word by word separation. But the million dollar question lies here is that how does it got converted? How that got splitted? Since I have given an empty split, that means empty in argument, it will consider space as the base for doing the split operation. So wherever there is a space, it will do the split. Here it is the space, right? So India has been taken as a separate word, IS has been separate word. Here it is a space. So rich will be taken as separate. Here also space. So history will be taken as separate. So that means when I use the split function without specifying any argument, it is going to work based upon the space. And if there is a situation where it demands you to use some specific letter for the split, you can use that. Now what I did at line number 62, I am trying to do the same split function, the same split, but using letter I. So what it is going to do, wherever there is an I, and it is going to consider the before data and after data of I as a part of your data list. Okay, so when I run, there you see why this empty space, because my data has been actually started with a small letter I. So when it splits, there is nothing left before the I, right? So it is giving an empty split here, and rest of the cases are splitted. Okay, so when you want to split, that letter will not come into the output. That means when I say that split of I, what does it mean? It means on the basis of I, you do me the split. So I will not get counted over there. So this is what split on basis of the letter I. Good. Now, how many split will do? Obviously, it is going to do the complete split. Wherever it sees the I, it is going to do the split. Okay, sometimes you can restrict this as well. You can restrict this by specifying a certain number, 3. So you don't get confused with the count index 3. Okay, so in count, when you use 3 after the letter, it means you're going to start from that particular index. But here in split, when I give 3 or some numbers, it means only do that number of split. You can see this I and this I in rich and I in history is actually coming without any split. Why? Because I given a maximum split my function should do. Since it says 3, actually 3 split only happened. Okay, not more than that. So only 3 split happened, and that's what we get it as an output. So these are the 3 different ways you can use your list functions in a string. Okay, and there is another function which we don't use frequently. What was that? I'm sorry. Partition. First, let me run. It says partition takes exactly one argument. So partition is opposite to split. On what basis? Split may work even without an argument, but not the partition. Partition definitely takes an argument for doing the split up. So let me keep the same I and let me run. The first thing that you should notice here is that when you use partition, the output will come in the form of tuple. Okay, so that's what. Whenever you want to convert a string to tuple, you can use partition. Okay, tuple and lister are more or less same, guys. You know, both are sequential data execution only. Only difference is that list is mutable. You can modify. Tuple is immutable. You cannot modify. Okay, so when come back to partition, partition means the output will be tuple. That is the first point to be noted, and it will do only one split. So when you run, look at this. It considers 1. So in list split, what will happen? On the basis of I, it is going to do the split. But here it will consider the first I. So whatever that comes before the first I will become a 0th index. Whatever that comes after the I will become the second index. And the letter that I'm trying to do the partition will become the first index. Look at this. This is 0th index. I is first index and these are the second indexes. So partition always have three index 0, 1 and 2. Okay, and it does only one split and the output will usually come in the form of a tuple. Okay, so these are something that you can expect regularly in interviews as well. These are the functions that we usually do often in our projects as well. Okay, now there are certain functions which is very easy, straightforward. So let me keep a data. If there is a Kohli fan out here who's watching this video, please do convert this Dhoni into Kohli of your wish. Okay, and Rohit Sharma for the fact. Okay, now my output is equal to my data dot upper. The name tells you the story, right? It is going to convert the data into uppercase. So totally got converted. Now what is lower? It is already lower. So let me just convert this into capital. When I run, look at this. So wherever it sees the capital letter, it will convert that into a small letter. That is a lower case. What is this function? Capitalize. Let me keep everything small and run. What happened is capitalize? Only the first letter got capitalized. So that's what capitalized. Only the first letter of, even though it is a bigger string, only the very first letter. The very first letter alone will get splitted or converted into a upper cases. Okay. Next one. Title. There is another function called title. So when I run this code, there you see. Title means what? Every word first letter. Capital S means only the first letter of the complete sentence. But a title means every first letter of the given word. Each and every word's first letter will be converted into a capitalization. This is the straightforward function. Okay. So what are these? These are actually a functions which does the operation. The same thing you can use, or there is a similar function where you can use to check whether it is a capital or not. Whatever here you done or I am done right now is that it's a conversion. There are few functions where I can use it for checking whether it is upper or lower. Look at this. Same function. Is upper. Is upper means I'm checking whether it is upper or not. When I run this code, it says false. False means what? It is not belongs to uppercase. Because it is obviously it's lowercase. Okay. Same thing applies here. I'm checking whether it is a lower. Of course, both are everything is lower, so output will be true. So whenever you try to use this kind of is based function, is function, is lower, is upper, is alpha num, is num, it means it is checking only whether it is available or not, whether it is a true or false, boolean kind of answer. So when I run, there you see the second output says true. Yes, because everything is in a lower case. Okay. Capitalize doesn't have such function. Is capital and all. There is no such function available. For a title you can use whether is title. Capitalize alone you don't have such function. Is title. It should be false. Very obvious. It falls under the category of false. Okay. So it might sound that these are the function which is not having maximum of value, but this will play some roles. Somewhere the other, it will definitely gonna play some more roles. Okay, right. And we'll see few function where we use on the middle, right? Not frequently, not lower, but at times we use. So that function it starts with, ends with. Okay, whenever you want to check some condition, look at this. My data is equal to Tony is my captain. Look at this. My output is equal to my data dot starts with. So I'm checking whether the data is actually started with Dhoni. Yes, it is Dhoni. So output will be yes means what? True. There you see output is true. Okay. And so this kind of output usually, I mean, this kind of function usually gives output like true or false. So what does it mean? It's a kind of if condition only, correct? So you can use this in a different format. Look at this. You can use this as a if statement also. So in previous case, what you have to do? You have to first take this an output and you have to keep this output, and then you have to, if you want to check the condition, right? If you want to execute certain code based upon the condition, yeah, if you use the above technique, what you have to do? First check this one, get that output, and then you have to compare if with this output. For instead of doing that, the complex way of execution, you can use it in a simplest way like I did at line number 101. So what does it mean? If it is true, it is going to print welcome. It prints welcome because that is true. Yes, it starts with Dhoni. Now look at this. What I did, I have made a capital T. So when I run, welcome will not get printed. Why? It doesn't fall under if statement because capital D and small d are different in Python, because Python is a case sensitive. So obviously capital D and smaller d's are different family altogether. Okay, right. Similar to start with, there is end with also. Ends with. Ends with captain. Yes, it is ending with captain, so output will be welcome because if we satisfied. So if you put C or some other letter, if will not get satisfied, so to the output will not get printed. So you can use this end and start with. Now the $1,000,000 question that I have told what you have to do on the start with and what you are supposed to do on the ends with. I never and ever told you that what if you want to find the inner words. So for those things, right, it's better that you use this in condition. Look at this. If my in my data. So what does it mean? I'm just checking whether the my is inside my data. I'm not going to bother about where it comes, whether in the first, last, or middle. I'm just checking whether this word occurs. Yes. Welcome. And sometime I need to do the term based upon something like I don't want this. I want to execute certain code if a specific letter not in the given string. For that, what you can do? You can use not in. So what is the scenario here? Welcome will be printed if and only if my is not in my given string, but there is my is available. So output will be nothing. If you want to, I can use else and show you clearly. It will end up in sorry because what is the condition here? Not in. It should not be there, but since it is there, it is not reaching the if state. So this is a way also, this way also you can use the in condition, in and not in. Okay, in, not, win, ends with, starts with, that comes in a moderate way. We worked on it, right? So Whenever I try to get certain data from DB, usually on the DB front, whenever I try to manipulate DB, or whenever I try to work on a DB, these kind of things that usually comes into the picture. Okay, fine. Okay, these are the functions that you see frequently. Now I'm going to teach you about some layer of function where that is not important on the project front, but it is important on your interview front. So this comes in the lower layer. Okay, of course, I told you, right? Interview, you cannot expect anything to happen as expected. Okay, some mess up can happen. So better be prepared. So same thing. My data and my output is equal to my data dot strip. When I run this code, output is coming as it is. This is what most of the people will come and tell me, sir, I ran this code, but output is nothing. Look, what is strip? Strip is basically to remove something. That is a strip, right? Remove. Point number two, where the strip will work. Strip will not work inside the given string. You might be wondering, sir, if it doesn't work inside, where does it works? It works only on the starting and ending of your given string. That means either before D or after N. Point number three, strip is similar to split where it can work without a argument. Now I didn't put any argument at line number 127. Straightforward, right? And I didn't put any argument, but still I say that it works. But my output is actually looks so correct. That's why it cannot do any operation. Now I'm going to take you to the better understanding. Look at this. I intentionally given you the space. Look this carefully, guys. I just made a space intentionally before and after my given string. Okay. So just for the better understanding for you people, I'm going to count length of this data. Length of my data. That means before strip, I'm going to do the count of the length, and after strip, I'm going to do the count of the given length. Length of my data. Look at this. One parenthesis. So initially it was 21 length of a character, but after stripping, it became 90. So what does strip basically does? It removes a space if it is exist first and last of a given string. Okay, so you might be wondering, sir, it doesn't look so good, right? I am the user, right? Anyone gonna start without a space, and anyone gonna end without a space. Then where I can implement or where I can use? Look closely, guys. If you type the code, of course you will be very alert while typing. But that is not the same case where whenever you want to get the data from external source, like whenever you get a data from DB, whenever you get a data from some other XML files or some other source of input, there are high chance that the data may have spaces that comes at the start and end of your given string. Usually that happens. Okay, so when if it is a large data, the first and last space might be occupied. So what you have to do is that whenever you try to take a data from external source, you should always do the strip for the betterment of your code. So what happens if you don't do the split? That will get automated, no, unused count, because the space is not necessarily needed. In future, what happen? You might be writing some condition. If the data I received is equal to this data, you're trying to compare. It looks so correct, but when you try to compare, it will end up in error. Why error? The data that you got might have a space. So it is better that whenever you put input or you get the input from some other source, always do the strip and take it back. That's why the length is coming this way. So if you ask me, sir, do I use some other data for splitting? You can use it also. Look at this. In this case, sometime what happen? Your output will be coming this structure, exclamatory marks with some character. But what necessarily needed only the data. That means what? You no need that specific marks, the characters to be precise. So now what you can do? You can use that as a part of your strip. So what you're telling, do the strip again. I'm telling, if the strip sits in, I mean if the character sits inside a function, inside a string, it won't consider. Strip will only consider that comes before and after a given string. So when you run, look at this. This is the initial output, and this output is actually after the strip. So what happened? The first point, yes, it is not stripping the character if it is coming between the string, and it is stripping only the character which is coming before and after your given string. So that is what the point that you people need to remember, or you need to keep that in mind. Okay, and I mean this strip has few additional functionality. What was that? I'll tell you. Now imagine this case. You got this output. So what happened? You know that you need to strip the exclamatory mark, but that exclamatory mark is happening only on the left side. That means it exists only on the left side. But what happened when you do the strip? It will go travel on both the places. It will go to the left. If there is an exclamatory mark, it will remove, and then it will go to the right side and it will check whether that mark is available. The problem here is that I know that the mark only available on the left side. So this is the point. So whenever you know that the exclamatory mark is available only on the left hand side, it is better to use L strip. L strip means do the strip on the left side only. Okay, so when I run this code, just for your example, I'm just keeping this. Look at this. It is not got stripped because my function was L strip. So too the R strip also. You can use R strip also. R strip means it will do only the strip on the right side. Okay, there is no need to run and show you because it is straightforward. So this way you can use your strip function. Again, I'm telling this is stays on the lower side of the expectation in interview. But as I told, right, why you should stop, work on it. Okay, there are few function. Okay, there are few function which may come in some scenarios. Some scenarios. Look at this. What is the important thing that you need to keep in mind whenever you send a data from one to another, especially WhatsApp? The data encryption. Correct. Encryption means if I send a hi, only the receiver. For example, if I'm sending a hi to my friend, only my friend should see the hi message. When it travels via the bandwidth, when it travels via the packets, right? Nobody should see the what data I sent because my expectation is that the data should get encrypted. You would have seen that WhatsApp, right? It comes up saying that the message from end to end is encrypted. Okay, so look at this. My data is equal to Tony is my captain. My output is my data dot encode. After encoding, you will be printing. Look at this. Now there is a special data that gets accommodated before the given string. What was that? B. What happened? It got converted into a bytecode. Okay, so what happened? This is actually got encrypted. You might be asking, sir, how does you say that this is encryption? Because it is coming as it is. Now I'm doing the basic encryption, guys. But as you go forward, right, there are a lot of encryption. Hash, hash based encryption, SHA based encryption. There are a lot of ways to do the encryption, but this is very basic way. Encode. and look at this. I got the output in my I got my output. I'm going to try to do some manipulation. Look at this. What manipulation? Let me do the count. My next output is equal to my out. I'm sorry. My output dot count of I. I'm trying to count the letter I from the given or from the retrieved output. Look at this. It says it cannot count. Look at the error closely, guys. Argument should be integer or byte like object, not string. So what happened is that count is a function which is usually applicable for string, but this given output is in the not in the form of string. If you want to check, always right now have this habit, guys. Whenever you try to do a unique operation, unique function, it is better that you always check this type of it. Look at this. What type it is? It is not a string type. It is a bytes. Okay. So that's what it is. This is encryption. This is encryption. This is just a scenario which I thought of telling. So when you want to convert this encoded data back to the normal string, you should use one. My decryption is equal to my output dot decode. That's it. Now print my decryption, print type of decryption. Look at this. Initially it was byte. As soon as I am done with my decode, it has converted back to my string. Okay. So this will come into picture when you try to do some network based automation or the program. Network means what? Usually you'll be sending a data and you will be retrieving a data. So there are a lot of things will happen to forth, right? So in those cases, right, it is always advisable to use these kind of conditions. Okay. Give me a second, guys. Fine. This is encode and decode mechanism. So rest of the function I want you people to try, because when we want to sit and do all the function right, it will take some ages to complete, because the rest of the function that I left off will be straightforward. You can just implement and you can see to it how it works. Okay. But still, if the time permits, we'll try to have a separate video for rest of the function as well. Something like center, something like case for. If you want, you can recheck that. I'll try to show you. So what I have to do? Print directory of my data. So we seen capitalize, count, encode, ends with, find, index. We seen is alpha, num is alpha. This is to check whether that is a given, whether the given data is a alpha. That means alphabetics. We seen is upper, is low. Similarly, is alpha means whether it is a alphabet. Is alpha number means whether it is a combination of alpha numeric, alphabetics as well as number. Is ASCII means whether the given data is in a ASCII format. Is decimal. Decimal means whether it is having some dots. Is digit. Digit means whether it is a number. is lower. Okay, L strip is in L just center or something that you can see to it. Okay, and join, I'll be teaching you on a separate thing how to use join. What is the purpose of join function? Remove prefix, remove suffix are a new function that has been added as a part of additional features in latest version of Python. In 3.8 and all, you don't see this remove prefix, this function. Okay, and this one, see, I just showed you r find for r find, I mean rear find, right, only, right? And also we seen r split strip, but same thing can be used for split and partition also. Okay, so rest of the case is straightforward, guys. Nothing much that I can sit and explain. And these are function where we don't use it frequently. But when you want to clear some sort of examples like hacker and the code signal, code fight, but definitely those are the areas where they may ask the question, a silly question like this: give me what is just does, what is what is the function that we didn't see, ljust, rjust. They'll ask you what is ljust, what is center function. There was some function called center. I don't. Oh yeah, here it is a center function. What is center? Okay, so those are the things you can expect in those particulars, but generally the function that we left off usually comes in the lower category, the lower expectation category. So you can learn this once you say that you are very strong on the basics. Okay, center, if you want, I can quickly do it. And there is function called zfill as well. Maybe I can show you zfill. Okay, look at this. My data is equal to Dhoni. My output is equal to my data dot zfill 5. Print output. Output will be Dhoni, because you cannot see the difference here. Okay, by the by, what is zfill? A zero fill. Okay, zero fill. So what happen? It will fill some zero. Where it will fill? Very straightforward, the common sense. When I have 100, if I want to fill a zero after 100, the value will be completely different. But if the same zero got filled on the left hand side, it is same only. So Z fill, the first point is that Z fill is nothing but a zero fill, and it will just fill the data only on the left side. What data? Only the zeros. Now, since my given data's length is 5 and also Z fill length is 5, it is not giving you any output. Now look at this. I just put Z fill of 7. So what happened? The maximum length I should have for my given string is 7. If that comes with below 7, as my input says, my input is only 5. So what happened? But I want to see the length, total length like 7. So 0 will be filled for the remaining letter on the left side. Okay. These are some sort of alignment, I can say, cosmetic function, which is not predominantly going to alter the output, but it plays some role over the output. So generally what happens in a DB, imagine the situation, you may have to enter a data. So sometimes what people might entering 505, 606, 707. Sometimes suddenly they'll enter like 4, they'll enter like 5. So when I see the output doesn't look so perfect, because one thing is in 3 digit and another data is in single digit, another data in 5 digit. So what I have to do? First I have to fix the maximum digit that I can have, say 7. If somebody gives only one number like 5, and what is my maximum? 7. So rest of the 6 places should be filled with the 0. So in those cases you can use zfill function. Okay, and the center is also works on a similar criteria. Center will throw error. Okay, now what happened? Sorry, it won't throw error, I beg your pardon. So now what happened? It looks as straightforward, but if you see the output little closely, there is some spaces that got added. Okay, so what happened? Center you can use without anything, but it's better to use something like this. We call it as fillers. Now when I run, look at this. Star got added on both left and right side. Why? Because that fill means what? If I given some total length in my function, if my given string is not satisfying or not equal to the given data, the rest of the data should be filled with 0, but only on the left side. That is what 0 fill. But center means what? If the given length of the function, if the center says 7, if my string is 5, what happened? Only two places are remaining. So you cannot either fill two places completely on the left or two places completely on the right. So you should start filling from left to right. First it will fill the left and then right. So that's why the data is coming, star is existing on both the places. So that means it is trying to center the given string from the total length that you are trying to give in the function. If the total length is 7, the one will be occupied at the center, and whatever that remains will be occupied with the given star. Okay, and L just means your data will be adjusted to the left side and rest of the character will be kept at the right side. Zero fill means definitely left side. Center means the data will be equally distributed between left to right. But justification means if I put L just, it will keep the data on the left and the rest of the remaining spaces, unused spaces will be filled at the right side. So too you can use R just as well. L just, R just and all. So this kind of function we generally term it as cosmetics. You know, it doesn't going to alter large variation of the output, but it does a smaller role to play in your code. So that is what this function just zfill and center. And as I told, right, there are few more functions where you can see to it. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's it with respect to the inbuilt function of a given string. Okay, and we do have another video where I already showed you about the functions for the list as well as function for the dictionary and also tuple, right? Since string is very vast, string is only the data type which has larger inbuilt functions, because whatever the manipulation you do, right, whatever the cases, whatever the scenarios might be, the end result will be usually string.